It's been a whole week since Canada's Wonderland announced their new for 2025 roller coaster, AlpenFury. This is a Premier Rides multi-launching roller coaster that upon first glance, I didn't think was real. The ride layout seems something out of a video game, and yes, that is a good thing. As rumored, this roller coaster will travel up and through the Wonder Mountain, blasting out of the top similar to Volcano the Blast coaster that used to operate at King's Dominion, which is a sister park to Canada's Wonderland. In many ways, this roller coaster will pay homage to the original Volcano Blast coaster, and I will point them out once we break down the entire layout. AlpenFury will be the park's 19th roller coaster, outpacing the coaster capital of the world, Cedar Point. The ride stats are also impressive. AlpenFury has a max height of 164 feet with a drop of 154.2 feet. The ride will twist and flip through 3,280.8 feet of track, reaching a max speed of 71.5 miles per hour. The roller coaster will feature a total of 9 inversions, the most in Canada and tied for the most in North America with Steel Curtain at Kennywood Park. Canada's Wonderland is also touting it as the longest, tallest, and fastest launch roller coaster in Canada. Okay, so before I even saw the ride stats, I was watching the POV and I started to count the inversions, only to lose track somewhere around the Fire Serpent roll. I watched it again and I counted 9, which I didn't believe at first. Sure enough, the ride has 9 inversions, but as I said earlier, very video game feeling. This ride has a super unique layout, and I'm loving it. Oh, and the park isn't advertising this stat, but it's the only launching roller coaster with 9 inversions. So let's get to the good stuff first, starting with the layout. The ride starts off with a mini launch that's just enough to get you moving. Once the coaster dives down into the mountain, AlpenFury hits the main launch that gets you traveling to what I would consider to be the max speed of around 71 miles per hour. These 2 launches reminded me of Volcano, as that coaster had 2 launches that were pretty much one after another as well. Instead of exiting the mountain in a top hat of sorts, AlpenFury will roll in and out of 2 inversions before twisting back to Earth. Volcano blasted out of the top of its mountain through an inversion, yet another similarity. After exiting the twisted, inverted top hat, AlpenFury flies into an overbank turn that leads into a giant zero-G stall. From here on out, the ride performs 3 back-to-back-to-back elements that are unique to AlpenFury. The first is the Skyflyer Loop. Many are comparing this to the treble clef on Fury 325, but at the very top, the coaster does a diving zero-G roll. The next element, which is being called an ice winder roll, it's like the cross between the lagoon roll found on Cannibal at Lagoon Park and the reverse Cobra roll, which is also called a step-up underflip found on Twisted Cyclone at Six Flags Over Georgia. The next set of inversions is called the Fire Serpent roll. It's basically 2 back-to-back zero-G rolls, but it wraps around that banked hill, traveling in the opposite direction. The coaster then enters its only true airtime hill before completing 1 more zero-G roll that leads into a small bunny hill prior to the brake run. The ride uses a ton of zero-G roll-like elements, which is one of the major criticisms I've been hearing. Some call it zero-G roll the ride. In fact, this is also another similarity to Volcano the Blast coaster, as that roller coaster mostly utilized zero-G rolls. But I think these critics might need to take a look at the layout once again. Sure, it has a lot of similar rolls, but it all plays into the pacing and chaos that this coaster is going for.
I'm an agent of chaos.
From the moment you enter the tunnel until you finish that last inversion, AlpenFury looks to be very disorienting. As I said earlier, I had to watch the POV multiple times just to figure out what was happening. This is going to be a crazy ride experience with a decent variety of forces. I think the launch will have a nice kick, but nothing crazy like a hydraulic launch, just a nice LSM launch. The inversions seem to vary from weightlessness, airtime, and hang time. Also, not to mention the many near misses this coaster will perform. It reminds me a lot of the Vekoma SLCs. Those models are very compact and wind through itself. I counted about 10 moments where AlpenFury has a near miss, interacts with the opposing track, or even another roller coaster. Even though I would consider Stardust Racers to be the best new launch coaster opening in 2025, AlpenFury is riding on its heels. If we take a look back over previous projects by Premier Rides, by and large, they tend to be successful endeavors. I didn't have huge expectations for Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando, but just like I would expect for AlpenFury, it has a unique ride layout with stronger forces than anticipated. Pretty much everything from their Skyrocket model to present have been decent rides. AlpenFury doesn't look to have many airtime moments, but that's also not really needed in a park that has a hyper and giga coaster. This ride looks to offer a variety of forces from positive Gs, laterals, negative Gs, hang time. This ride is gonna have it all. All the signs are pointing to a fun, unique, crazy layout that fills the gap in Canada's Wonderland's lineup. Okay, so I've been talking a lot about the positives, time to bring up a few concerns. The biggest two, which is basically what everyone else has pointed out, will be the capacity and the train design. First, let's talk about the trains. AlpenFury will operate with two 18-passenger trains. Anyone who has ridden a Skyrocket to Cologne, Icebreaker, or even Full Throttle knows that these trains are hard to enter and exit. The shin guards make it very difficult to squeeze your legs through and doesn't provide the most comfortable experience. Sure, the ride is pretty darn smooth, but that lap bar, shin guard, and in worst case scenarios, the comfort collars can make this ride uncomfortable. The animations seem to show the lack of comfort collars, which is good to see. They are completely unnecessary and get in the way. However, the train design still looks similar to the traditional Skyrocket 2 model. Next is the capacity. Canada's Wonderland is one of the busiest seasonally operated theme parks in North America, so a coaster that can keep up with the demand is a must. Well, AlpenFury is not a boomerang coaster or a wild mouse coaster that has abysmal capacity, but it's no giga coaster either. Instead, capacity falls somewhere in the middle. According to their website, AlpenFury is about 80 seconds long, and since this ride doesn't have a mid-course brake run, each cycle is going to be about 80 seconds, because I assume that they can't send the train in the station until the other train is sitting on the brake run. According to my estimates, AlpenFury is capable of sending 45 trains an hour, which gives us a maximum ride capacity of 810 riders an hour. However, chances are the ride cycles will average closer to 2 minutes, which only gives us 30 trains an hour with a total of 540 riders an hour. To put into perspective, Wild Mouse at Cedar Point has an average ride capacity of 480 riders an hour, which is on the lower end. A hypercoaster model like Leviathan or Behemoth would see ride capacity easily around 1,400 riders an hour. Truth be told though, this capacity will work itself out in the long run. Sure, the park will get pretty busy and AlpenFury will be the talk of the town next year, but after a year or so, I think Leviathan will continue being the front runner at Canada's Wonderland. AlpenFury will function as a solid supporting coaster to bolster their collection. This is a coaster model that has been lacking in their lineup. The park has 2 other launching roller coasters, but they are geared towards families. AlpenFury is a full-on thrill machine that will be one of the most intense coasters in the park. My final concern, which is really only a small one, will be the theming. I love that the ride will incorporate flames as you blast out of the mountain, again another callback to Volcano, but I'm worried that the tunnel will not utilize the theming shown in the animation. We all know that the inside of the mountain is a bunch of steel support beams, and if they are visible along with, say, storage, which I'm sure they use the mountain for that as well, will pull me out of the moment. But if this tunnel is done right, I could care less about any additional theming throughout the layout or station, because this is the only moment that really matters in this department. Oh, and as a side note, I noticed that the color scheme is different in the announcement trailer video compared to the animation POV. The trailer shows a track with darker blue colors and supports that are a dark red, unlike the animation video which has white track with ice blue supports. Also, another interesting thing, the support columns prior to the tunnel and for the brake run are a brown color. Not sure the reasoning, maybe it's just more aesthetically pleasing in that section of the park. In conclusion, AlpenFury will be one of the best roller coasters opening in 2025. It will also be the reason why I will finally renew my passport and visit my first international park. I know it's crazy that I live 5 hours away and have yet to go to Canada's Wonderland. But anyways, until next time, this is X Scream Thrills.